You've decided you're ready to become a parent, and suddenly you're overwhelmed with people who feel they have the right to inform you on the correct way to conceive, give birth, what fears you should have, and the proper way to parent. How do you filter through the opinions? How do you know what's trustworthy information and what's a myth or just plain outdated? Welcome to the Birth Ease podcast. Join your host Michelle Smith and her guests as they cut through the noise and fear by sharing valuable tips, tools, and proven methods that help you connect with your own inner wisdom as you navigate the sacred journey that is pregnancy, birth, and parenthood in a more relaxed and confident manner. This podcast does not constitute, nor is it intended, as medical advice.
Hello, Birth Ease families. Welcome to the Listening to Midwife series. I'm your host, Michelle Smith. It is my intention in this series to create a sacred space for midwives to voice what is on their heart and in their soul. This series is for anyone that loves and supports midwives, or for someone that wants a deeper understanding of what midwifery care is. In this episode, I am so excited and grateful to have with me Laura Nathan. Laura is a Florida licensed midwife serving families in Orlando and surrounding communities since 2014. She is the owner of Modern Orlando Midwifery, a home birth practice for her midwifery clients. After working in a busy birth center, Laura now loves the ability to get to know her clients well through long home visits. The focus is on building a strong relationship where both parents and midwife can trust and understand one another. Her love of client education ranges from detailed explanations of pregnancy and the normal changes women experience to diastasis recti prevention and repair, to newborn care and breastfeeding success. Laura has also studied the use of hypnosis for pregnancy and birth. She utilized Birth Ease Hypnobirth for her own baby's birth and is certified as a hypnodoula with Hypnobabies. Laura feels with comprehensive education, parents can make the best choices for the mother-baby dyad. Welcome, Laura, to the Birth Ease podcast. I'm so excited to have you here today.
Thank you.
So part of this series is really, I want to give midwives space to talk about what shapes their practice, what's important to them, what's on their heart and on their mind, or what they would like families to know. So I want to give you that space for people to get to know you as a home birth midwife.
Okay.
So can you share a little bit to begin what brought you to your midwifery career?
What brought me to midwifery was at the very beginning, before I'd even considered anything about it. My friend had showed me the documentary Business of Being Born, and that kind of sat there in my mind for a while. And then after a number of months, I was kind of considering, well, what would I want for birth when that time eventually comes? And I spent a whole night. I have one particular vivid memory of a night that I just spent researching until like 3 a.m, watching birth videos. And I came upon an article it was somewhere in Canada, and they were joking how you have to call your midwife first and then pee on the stick to find out if you're actually pregnant, because they were so busy and so booked up that by the time you figured it out, your midwife that you wanted might not be available. And I was thinking, really? They're this busy that like midwifery is such a big thing that, and so many people are so interested in it that you can actually make a career out of it. I would love this. This sounds fascinating and wonderful. And I did more research and eventually became a doula for a little while, and I did a couple births just to make sure I really liked it, and I loved it. So I went to school, and the rest is history. I was originally just looking into my own birth options and fell into that and never came back.
So you worked in the birth center setting and then now have your own home birth practice, correct?
Yes, I precepted with a birth center, and they were my birth family. I loved being with them, and so it was just so easy to stay. And I was their midwife for 5 or 6 years, and then started my own home birth practice about a little over a year ago. And I've been doing that since, and I love it. I love home birth. I love both birth center and home birth, but home birth has always been where my real passion is. I love it so much.
What about home birth are you so passionate about?
I love how I get to spend this time with these families, really getting to know them, what they want, what their concerns are, their fears are, their wishes, their desires, especially it can go both ways with first time moms who don't know anything. And so they have all this education that they're getting because they learned about midwifery somehow and they might not know that much about birth. I had one mom, I met her for the first time as a consultation and just getting to know each other. And she was like, I have no idea about anything else, like, well, about delayed cord clamping. And I was mentioning some things, and she was like, I know nothing about any of that. And it was just complete blank slate. And then other times it's mothers who have had a previous experience and they just want something different. They may not know what it is, but they want something different. And midwifery, especially at home, is so different than what is the standard or most common way that women receive prenatal and birth care in this country. And I just hear over and over again, oh my gosh, thank you so much. That was so empowering. That was so different. That was wonderful. Even 30 minutes after the birth, and they've just given birth to a baby, and they're still just feeling wonderful about everything that's happened, even if it was uncomfortable, still was a really great experience. And that's really my goal, is to help these moms have an educated, empowered, fulfilling experience while staying safe. And that's really my biggest priority, is that they stay safe.
Yes. I think that relationship that is formed with your midwife and the level of prenatal care that you receive is part of what makes that difference with the home birth experience. Besides the fact that there is that element of feeling safe in your own environment, which is huge in labor.
But also trusting the person that you're with.
Yes.
I've spent hours and hours with them because my prenatal visits, like honestly, I try to keep it to an hour, and I'm not always that great at it. But for each individual prenatal visit. And so I've spent hours with these families, and we've had so much time to go over all their different fears and concerns. And we've had all this time getting to know each other and these really long prenatals that by the time the birth comes around, I already know what they want. I already know what they are hoping for, and I can try and help make that happen. And their families have gotten to know me. Their children are comfortable with me. Usually the first prenatal visit or two, there's a lot of where they're kind of, I'm not so sure about you. And by the time we come around to the birth, the kids are, hey, it's Miss Laura. And they're running up to me and they're super excited to see me. And I'm just another person in their home. They're not, who are you? They're not looking at me askance or anything like that. They're just like, oh, yep, she's here. So they're really comfortable. So it's nice that the kids can be comfortable. They can come and go as they please. The family that they need to support them can be there, however many people that might be. It's nice to have that already built-in understanding that we have.
Yeah. And don't you feel that makes the birth easier in a way? One, because in order to be in control in labor, you have to surrender to the process.
Definitely.
And to be able to surrender, you have to feel safe and you need to trust your caregiver.
Mm-hmm.
And that level of, for lack of better words, of intimacy that you have with your midwife affords the birthing mom the ability to really just surrender.
Mm-hmm. She can just let go.
And listen to her body.
Exactly.
Yes.
Right. And I feel like one of the things that really helps with that is some form of relaxation or hypnosis. I try and encourage, not all my families, but a lot of them would benefit from it. And some of them end up utilizing it. And you can really see the difference when they're able to relax really, really well. I try to get a lot of my families to consider the idea of taking some kind of hypnosis course if they aren't already in a position where they're really easily able to relax. And it seems to make their birth so much more, I don't really want to say peaceful, but they feel like they're more in control as they're able to let go more. And they can do both those things at the same time. The families that especially when I was working at the birth center, and I felt like there were not as many families that utilized that. It was because there was a higher number of clients, not all of them chose to do that. So I had more moms who were in labor and I would help them, and I could visually see that they were tensing up their shoulders or all the way up to their ears, and I would help them relax. Okay, with this next one, release your shoulders, relax. And I would talk them through it, and they would turn to me and say, that was so much easier. And I was like, well, really, the contraction was exactly the same. It was just you were more relaxed. It made it easier. And that was always a huge thing for me, that yes, hypnosis, being able to help moms relax more, can make their birth easier. So I did my childbirth education with you. Even I was already a midwife, but I still went through the courses with you and did your birthies program. I feel like it helped me so much. My own birth, I listened to my MP3s. And then after I wasn't able to listen to the MP3 at the same time as my labor progressed, I was still able to count myself down. And I felt that was so helpful and made things so much easier. I love when moms do some kind of hypnosis training prenatally. I think that's a fabulous tool, no matter whether birth, hospital, or otherwise. If I could tell one thing for them to practice prenatally, it would be learn some kind of relaxation or hypnosis.
Yeah, and I'm so honored, thank you, to have you say that. Because really what we're doing after teaching hypnosis for birth for 17 years now and working with my own birthies program to create that relaxation habit within the body, that's really what we're doing. And we want to release the fears that women can have, because you and I both know when we get into that fear, tension, pain cycle, it makes the labor much more uncomfortable, painful. Women are fighting their body. And it's one thing to tell somebody to relax. I mean, and even as you're talking, your voice is so soothing. I'm like, yeah, as a midwife, you could talk to them and tell them to relax their forehead, relax their shoulders. And if they have that resonance with you, they'll do it. But how much more powerful is it if we've already created that habit? Because so many people don't know how to relax. They don't. They haven't trained their body how to relax. And what's so amazing to me over all these years as a doula, it's not all the time. I don't want to act like it is, but the majority, vast majority of the time, if I have a mama in labor, especially if we've worked together before, I can tell her to relax her forehead and it's almost instantaneous.
Mm-hmm.
Relax your shoulders, release your jaw, relax your bottom. Let everything go. And in that, she's not fighting the labor, and it makes it so much smoother.
And more comfortable and pleasant for her as well.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, because there's just this view, I think, held by so many, because the paradigm is to go to the hospital, right? And women screaming and poor birth partners acting
Lost.
like buffoons.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, or
Right.
lost. It's so stereotyped.
Right.
And it's not fair to the birthing mother, really, or her partner.
Because it doesn't have to be that way. That's what we see in the movies and the sitcom sketches. It doesn't have to be that way, of the screaming, painful birth that is just awful and got to get through it and suffer through to get to the end, to the good thing at the end, which is the baby. The process can also be really uplifting. It can be a really beautiful process that, well, as a midwife, of course, I think it's beautiful, but also the mom can feel really empowered by it.
The beautiful thing about learning the habit, because it does allow a whole nother level of that surrender in the birth. But what I've found over the years, that even if our birth isn't the most comfortable, I mean, I really do have, you've seen it. I have some mamas I've worked with over these years, the hundreds of families I've worked with, hundreds and hundreds, that they have pain-free birth. You know, my daughter had a pain-free birth. And then some women, it was intense, but it wasn't painful. Other women will say, yeah, it hurt, but I did it. And then some of us, we can have a difficult journey in our birth, but I really feel like having these tools and preparing mentally, emotionally, physically, all of that if we have a more difficult experience, I think it helps us to move through it with more grace. And yes, you might need to mourn that you didn't get your birth, or you might have to work through those thoughts of, oh my gosh, I was too loud, or I did this, or I did that. And, we get all in our heads about it. But I found that women tend to tell me I had tools to really help me when my baby was facing the wrong way or something like that. I feel like it's just so broad spectrum.
Mm-hmm. Right. Not every woman's going to react the same way with their particular birth and situation and their particular reaction to hypnosis and their training. So every birth will be different, but it's still helpful, even if it isn't the absolute ideal, serene, painless that some women are able to actually achieve. But I feel like, my birth wasn't painless by any stretch of the imagination, either of them, but definitely helped make it so much easier. And I feel like if I had been in the hospital, I would have gotten an epidural 3 times over with my first one. But the hypnosis, I was able to get back into it and help me continue going. And with my second, it was even easier. So, and with him, I was ready to have another baby 10 minutes after he was born. So
That's always so amazing
I
when you
know.
have a mom that says, that wasn't so bad. I do that
I could
again.
do that again.
Yeah.
That's exactly what I said 10 minutes after he was born. I was like, I could do that again. That was great. Yeah, it hurt, but it was fantastic at the same time. So, and I've heard lots of women say that. I was one of the I'll never do that again with my first, and with my second, I could do that again. So every birth is different, even with the same person. And I've heard lots of women. I had an 18-year-old once who was pushing, and after the birth, she was like, that was fantastic. I could do that again. And she did. She came back like 4 or 5 years later and had another out of hospital birth and did great again. So everybody's experience is different.
Yeah. And I feel like having this level of support throughout your pregnancy, it really makes a difference to help you to navigate however that birth unfolds. And ultimately, for me, I want my families to be able to have tools that they can use the rest of their lives, because to me, it's so much more, and why I've just branched off and done my own thing over the years and not been affiliated with a certain birth hypnosis or hypnobirthing or hypnobabies, any kind of institute, because I really want the focus to be on learning tools and stress reduction.
Mm-hmm.
Because you know how that can impact a family as well, but to give families tools they can use the rest of their lives. And that's really what it's about to me, versus whether or not it's pain-free. That's a wonderful thing when it happens, but I hate it if moms feel like they failed.
Because they didn't get the pain free.
Yeah.
Right. Because that's not the end all and be all. I've even used like with dental work, and I've helped my daughter learn how to breathe, and she's only 5. I've helped my daughter learn how to use breathing techniques to help her calm down when she has a boo-boo or she's really upset about something. And I feel like that's really been helpful as well. And now she uses not all the time, but sometimes she likes to use a hypnosis track for falling asleep, because she was having a really hard time. It would take her 2 hours to fall asleep at night. And so now she uses hypnosis, and by the time it's over in 30 minutes, she's out. And she used to use the toddler one, and now she uses just a regular adult one, and she likes that one better now.
Because she's grown.
Well, she's only been using it for 6 months, but
your daughter thinks she's grown. I know.
Oh, she does. Oh my gosh. I was driving her home yesterday, and I was telling her, well, that feels like, because it's for little kids. She's like, I'm not a little kid though.
Yeah.
And I was like, you're 5. You are the definition of little.
But she's fiery. These little girls coming in, they're here to make changes, and your daughter's one of them.
She knows.
Yeah.
Yes. She definitely knows, like, no, mom, that's not how it is. I'm like, well, okay. We are both Aries, so we do heads a little bit.
Yeah, I have one of those. I have an Aries. As we're talking, I think that can be a difference, though, with children that are born at home, children that are born gently in the hospital, children that are born in a birth center. That gentle birth imprints upon their psyche, upon their cellular memory. And I feel like they have a confidence that can be lacking in other children that start their life in such a traumatic way. I see the difference in my own children. My eldest, it was almost 34 years ago, and I was a different person then, obviously, than I am parenting my 12-year-old now. But our birth was so traumatic, so traumatic. And my daughter is much more anxious than my youngest one that was born at home in the water, And
Mm-hmm.
there's just more confidence to her, I think. And it's not that we can't heal our children's births, so no mama guilt out there. We can always heal. But I really feel like that's part of the beauty of home birth and utilizing either a guided relaxation program or a birth hypnosis program or a meditation program, because it's really helping to create that peaceful environment for our baby in the womb and through the birth and in that peaceful atmosphere at home.
Mm-hmm. It helps reduce mom's stress prenatally, which can be healthy for the baby as well.
Mm-hmm.
There's so many different things with home birth, though, because you've got the relaxation that the mom can actually truly, really feel like she's getting into and utilize fully, but also the attention to the mama-baby dyad, the two of them being a unit that
Yes.
we need to get breastfeeding established, and that is more important than some other things that might be very routine in other settings. The focus is more attendant upon the mother and the baby getting what they need to give them the best start. Like I just had a birth last week where she had such a hard time breastfeeding and she did more milk feeding because she had to bottle feed her breast milk with her first, but with her second, she's like, well, this is just so easy. Like, wow, what a difference, because we were able to eventually get the baby to latch. And I mean, it would still work. She's still having to work for it, but it came much more naturally because we enabled the baby to do the things that the baby already wanted to do and was instinctually able to do, and allowed that to happen rather than getting it in the way with all of our routines and procedures.
Absolutely.
That's one of the things I really like about home birth as well, is that the focus is more on enabling mama and baby to do what they already know how to do rather than making sure I get my boxes checked.
Right. Absolutely. And it really honors that baby.
And to give her the best start in her life, because she's had breast milk and skin to skin time with her mom and a gentle birth and
Delayed cord clamping.
all of it.
Yeah, they're starting to do it in the hospital, but often it's like you get 90 seconds. 90
Right.
seconds.
I got 3 minutes. I got 3
3
minutes at a birth in the hospital.
Yes.
A while ago, but
And I think the significance of that has really hit me recently, that our placenta is our connection to source. It's our connection to our mother. And here this baby's born and we cut it immediately.
Mm-hmm.
And it's this harsh, you have to breathe right away. And when we wait, the baby's still getting oxygen through the placenta, and it's a gentler entrance from water, from the womb to being here on the land, right?
Mm-hmm. As a midwife, I love delayed cord clamping for many reasons, but also it gives us that you have that redundant backup. Like baby's learning to breathe and starting to do that. And if needs a little more time, it's okay. Baby has this other alternate oxygen source. Whereas if it's cut right away, it's like, you got to do it or we're going to be in trouble here. So it gives me this.
Right.
It gives a leeway of time for baby to do baby's thing. And if I need to help, then I help. But it's not emergent.
Right.
It can be this gentle transition, and as we work on the process of getting baby's lungs inflated and breathing that first breath for the first time.
Which is so significant. And I feel like it can be more celebrated at home too.
Mm-hmm.
The sacredness of birth.
Mm-hmm.
Not that it can't happen in a hospital, but it's more innate with home birth, with birth center birth.
Right. The intention of the provider is going to direct how things are approached in a lot of ways. If you have a relaxed provider who is more willing to let the natural physiological process of birth happen rather than trying to control every aspect of it, it can let that happen. I mean, there's a time and place to step in and do something, of course. There's, showing that that's needed. But most births, I'm guiding and holding and supporting rather than doing. The mom's the one doing the doing. So she's doing the work of birthing her baby, and I am just making sure that the baby gently comes out and floats to the water to her arms or gets up from the bed to her arms. So rather than doing anything, I'm not the one birthing the baby. She's doing the work.
Right. Right. As you're talking, I'm flashing back to a birth that I did so many years ago with Diane Albright. And this mom had experienced some trauma. It was definitely a case of obstetric violence and assault. And so she chose to have a home birth with her second. And she's in the water laboring. And when she was in transition, she just wanted her and her husband there. And then when the birth became imminent, the grandma, great grandma, and her little girl came in, and her little girl was sitting on the edge of the pool and wanted to get in. And the mom's like, oh, yeah, she can get in. So she's pushing, and the baby's head is emerging. And this little girl reaches over and touches her baby's brother's head. And then the next contraction comes, and the baby's head comes, and she touches her brother's head. And then the mom and the little girl reach down and bring baby brother up from the water to her chest. And it was such a different imprint from what this little girl received in her own birth and that traumatic experience at the hospital with that OB. And it was the most incredible thing I'd ever seen. This mom birthing her baby with the help of her daughter on her own. The midwife was there. Diane was there. Diane would step in, of course, if she needed to. But it really showed me the power that we women inherently have to birth our babies. And somewhere that's been lost. In the hospital, to touch your baby's head is such a big deal. But to actually be able to receive your baby, and then once the baby was born, she birthed her placenta, and we helped her out of the bed. And again, I'm kind of at a loss for words as I get into the memory of it. It just showed the inherent wisdom in our women's bodies, in our babies' bodies, this ability to give birth. Do we need help sometimes? Yes. But it's that honoring of that wisdom, which it sounds like, and I know that's what you do as a midwife.
Well, thank you. I try.
Yeah, you do. You hold that space for women to find their own wisdom in their bodies and learn what they're really capable of. I know with my last, when I caught my own baby after walking through all the trauma I had in my first two births, and even getting triggered at the end and transition before my baby was born with my last, but to be able to catch her myself, it just, again, I don't have words because it made me realize that if nobody were there, intrinsically, we women would figure out how to give birth to our babies.
Mm-hmm.
That knowledge is there. You're just holding the space to keep them safe.
Right. And even if they don't literally catch their own baby, they're still birthing their baby. I didn't get to catch either of mine, even though I wanted to.
Right.
The midwife did both times because I just didn't have it in me to literally, my hands were, I don't know. It just didn't seem like it was something I could do at the moment. It was just, just get the baby out.
Mm-hmm.
And so she was catching the baby and I just did my thing, but I still didn't feel, I wasn't really all that upset that I didn't get to be the first one to touch either of them. It was, they immediately came to my chest. So it's fine. Someone was there to make sure they didn't flail around in the water because I water burst with both of mine.
Right.
So
Right.
it was just someone to just, kind of gently guide them towards my arms so I could bring my baby up. But
yeah, exactly.
Just still, I did the birthing. They were there supporting and helping and squeezing hips and giving counter pressure and doing the things to help make it be more comfortable. But I was definitely the one doing the birthing.
Right.
I mean, women should feel that way, that they are the one doing it, but they have the support that they need to do that job and to do that work.
Right, right. And as you're talking, what comes to me is that the midwives received your baby versus delivered your baby.
Right. They didn't save me from my baby or from my labor. I rocked it. I did it.
Yes, yes, yes. And they received a baby because sometimes you're right, we're just not in that headspace to do it.
Right.
And so it's nice to have someone that you have such a relationship with that they can anticipate your needs and what they are in that moment.
Right. I had told, especially the second one, I was like, I really want to catch the baby this time. And she tried to make it happen. She was like, you want to catch your baby? And I'm like, no, just get the baby out. So she knew what I wanted.
Right.
But at the moment, I was just like, nope, that plan's out the window. Just make it happen. I need this instead from you right now. And so
Right.
she did that. And
And there's such beauty in that. There really is.
because there's the plan and then there's the flexibility of what really happens with birth. And that's one of the things that just has to be a given at the beginning of any kind of birth, is that you may have your dreams and hopes, and then there's the reality of what your baby needs and what you need, and that's what's really going to happen. So I'm just kind of giving into that. It's also not being stuck on one particular thing. I knew a midwife who had a client that wanted everybody to show up and wear white at her birth. Everybody. And the midwife was like, I don't have white scrubs. Are you kidding me? Like, but it was a lot of like trying to control every little aspect.
Yeah.
And birth is, you plan the best you can and then you go with what happens. There's some things you just can't plan for.
It teaches us.
Right. And whether that's a small thing like you don't get to catch your own baby because you're not in that headspace at the moment, or something is going on that you have to transfer to the hospital and everything changes about your birth. And the midwife a lot of times can come to the hospital and try and preserve some of the things that you were hoping for.
And create that continuity.
Right.
That continuity of care. Yeah, that helps.
Right. Mamas are so busy birthing their babies, no matter what point in labor they are at, that I like going with also so that I can give them that where they can continue working on their work and I can talk to the staff and interface and be that voice to give them all the information so that she doesn't have to. I don't know when I started having contractions sometime last night, and I can know it was at 3 a.m. and be that interface.
Right, because in labor, we're not in our critical thinking mind and we don't want to be either. We have to get into that inner labor land.
Yeah, I can help remind her what, this is what you wanted, and I'm helping remind her, oh, you wanted to do delayed cord clamping, right? So baby's about to be born. And then dad can say, yeah, we want to do delayed cord clamping.
Right.
So I kind of become basically a doula at that point. But
yeah, well, and it's important because I feel like too, even as we're talking, part of this work, it's not just physical preparation, it's emotional, it's a mental preparation.
Mm-hmm.
That is just as important, no matter how you decide to do it. That's what's important. And looking at our fears and our biases and our preconceived notions that we may have about birth and finding a way to release those fears as best we can, because then we can surrender to the process and creating that safe environment, finding the caregiver that we resonate with and trust. And then ultimately, I personally feel like the baby's in control. It's their birth. We do our work to let go of our fears and do all the preparation. And then it's the baby's birth. And there's a wisdom. They know how they need to be born.
And it's a dance between mom's body, physically, mentally, like emotionally, but physically, how are things? Are there any restrictions, things like that? So, and baby's position and all sorts of different things that we just don't have full control over and have to work with whatever we're given.
Yeah. Yeah. And that's the beauty. It's creating that resiliency for the process, for the pregnancy, for the birth. And that can prepare us for postpartum and for motherhood.
Mothering.
Yeah.
There's so much that in birth that not literally related, but emotionally and physically is preparing us, psychologically preparing us for motherhood, the ups and the downs. They're not really ups and downs, but more the high points and the
Difficult.
trials that come along with mothering, because not every moment is this Pinterest perfect, Facebook post perfect moment by any stretch. There's lots of soul searching and difficulties that come along with it, just like with birth and pregnancy. It continues right on into motherhood, and at every stage you're learning along with your child.
Yes.
They're developing and growing and throwing new things at you.
Yep. And I really feel like they are our teachers. And there's just always opportunity for healing and reflection and self-growth.
I had somebody who had said, your baby will teach you more than anything more than I can tell you.
Yep.
It was at a pediatrician's office. I was pregnant with my first child, and I'm like, I'm a midwife. I know quite a bit about newborns. I need to know about like the after the newborn stage. Like after 6 weeks, what do I do with this child? I don't know anything. I need to know everything now. And I was really upset with her when she said that to me, because I was like, how dare you just tell me that you'll just learn it on the fly as you go as a mother. They'll teach you more. And I was irritated with her. But it's so true. Now looking back at it 5 years later, I'm like, yeah, there was no way she could have prepared me for this. Not really. I just kind of had to go with what I knew at the time and make my best choices and move on from there. And I learned so much more as I went along.
Yeah. It's good to understand child development.
Right. Psychology is some things, but
yeah. Yeah. But your child's going to teach you. They are our teachers.
Yeah.
And my last one sure is. I always teach. My big mistake was when I prayed, dear God, make me a better doula. Make me a better childbirth educator.
You got your wish.
Bad plan. But it's been a journey and it's been difficult. But she has taught me, not all of it's been difficult, but she has taught me so much. I mean, I got triggered. My PTSD got triggered in my labor with my last baby. And what that taught me, and having the skills that I've taught families to fall back on, use that relaxation and be able to open and close your eyes in it, is huge. The tools I had, but she taught me so much. And I think you're right. It's like this dyad. They are teaching us and we're teaching them. And I'll say part of what I really like about midwifery care too is I feel like you get, especially birth center, home birth, you get more care postpartum. You're checked on 3 days postpartum. You typically have a 2-week visit. You have a 6-week visit. Your midwife is a text away or a phone call away.
Exactly. I was going to say. Yeah. I have moms who text me all sorts of things all the time, and they know to call if it's the middle of the night and can't wait. Like they have me 24 hours if they need me. They can call me for any little thing. And I think part of that, just knowing that they have that resource there, they don't have to go through an answering service and wait for business hours or go to the hospital if they're not sure if it's after hours.
Yeah.
They have me.
Yeah, I really feel like it makes a difference in that postpartum healing too. Especially now with all the social distancing, knowing that you can reach your midwife.
Right. Either through the phone, or if there's something that needs to be addressed, they don't have to go anywhere. They can just stay home and I'll pop over and we'll work on that breastfeeding and make it more comfortable, figure out what's going on. So
yeah, it's a different level of care, families. We're not trying to say that hospital birth is bad and wrong. It's just...
No, not at all.
Yes. And sometimes you need to be there, but we're just exploring this other possibility that a lot of people
don't know about.
Yeah. Or understand that it can be a safe and is a safe alternative in a low risk pregnancy.
Yeah, most women can safely have an out-of-hospital birth, and that's fine if that's what they feel comfortable choosing. And that's one of my big things is, where does the mom feel most comfortable?
Yes.
Does she feel safe at home? If she doesn't feel safe at home, I don't really want to do a home birth with her either, because she's going to be second guessing and questioning and hard to relax. And it just might not be she's not going to feel fulfilled by that experience if she's just wishing she were in the hospital the whole time.
So wise.
But if it's someone, if someone is, I don't want to be in the hospital. I feel, whatever her reasoning, she just feels like she would feel more comfortable at home, and she has a low risk pregnancy. sure, then let's do this.
Yeah, yeah, and then have those skills to help you because, yes, you don't get any pain medication at home. So,
No, no epidural, sorry.
yeah,
No IV pain medication, sorry. It's all natural. It's all mama. So we would do a lot of mind work before that, preparing.
right, and believing in your ability to do it and utilizing things like the water. I mean, it's nature's epidural.
Oh gosh, the water. It
Yeah.
is. Even just a
Mhm.
shower can feel fantastic. I would take a birth ball into the shower and just, if it's big enough, set it in the shower and let mom sit in the shower for a while. That can feel fantastic, even if it's not a full-on water birth. Mhm.
Yeah, and I just feel like in birth center and at home, it's important to realize that there are different tools.
Mhm.
You have different tools to utilize that aren't available in the hospital, just like there's tools in the hospital that aren't available at home, but there are these tools. And a lot of times, the experience of just being more relaxed and feeling safe in your own environment.
It's that feeling of control.
Yes, and safety because we might be human, but we're still intrinsically mammals, and we need to feel safe when we give birth in order for all those hormones to flow and for the labor to be efficient. Because if you don't feel safe, the labor is going to slow or stall, right?
Mhm.
So if you feel safe and you're not fighting the labor and fighting your body, then the labor inherently can be more comfortable. And there's less need for pain medication because you're not in this stressful environment and fighting the labor.
It's also easier when you don't have someone. Are you sure you don't want pain medications?
Yeah.
Are you sure you don't want an epidural now? Like, this would be a good time for an epidural if you want one.
Planting that seed.
Like I said with my first, if someone had walked in when I was probably 5 centimeters and thought I was in transition, but being the one in labor, not realizing, no, I wasn't, because I had thought I was. And I remember my midwife just shaking her head like, no. I'm just like, if this isn't transition, I don't know what was. And well, then I found out what really was. If I had been in the hospital with my first, I probably would have. If someone had walked in and said, do you want an epidural? I'd be like, yep, give me that
Mhm.
right now. But being at home, I was just like, I want an epidural. I told my midwife and she said, I know. And I was like, okay, I'm going back to the shower now because I didn't really want it. I didn't want to be that uncomfortable anymore.
You just wanted to voice it, to just voice it.
Right. And I think saying it made it so much easier. Hi, baby. Oh, my son has walked in.
Yep, I heard him. I heard him. So, since he is here, real quickly, do you have one pearl of wisdom that you want to share with the families, if he'll let you?
So I guess it would be to know that you have choices and you have a voice and to use that. To know that you have choices, whether that be individual small choices for each individual situation that you are find yourself in, or whether that's the overall scheme. Do I want hospital? Do I want home birth? Do like the bigger picture items. So in all those situations, there are choices, and one is not inherently wrong compared to another.
Yes.
And then also to know that you have a voice. You can speak up and say, why are we doing this? Or no, I don't want that. Or I would really like this. To have that conversation, that dialogue with the provider rather than just acquiescing and saying yes to everything without question. If you have that niggling, like, well, why are we doing this? Well, then say that. They should be able to respect that. If you have a provider who can't respect your question of why are we doing this, even with I don't know, that's just because it's my protocol, or this is why we're doing it, they should be able to give some response. If it's just because I'm in charge, don't question me, that would be the huge red flag for me.
Yes.
Knowing you have a voice, knowing you have choices, that's the biggest thing I would want moms to know.
Yeah, and it's so wonderful to hear you say that because I'm finding as this podcast is evolving, there's these themes that these very wise people that I'm getting to have conversations with are bringing forth. And you're sharing that so beautifully. You have a voice and know that you have options. So thank you for that.
Well, thank you for having me. I appreciate it.
Oh, you're so welcome. If anyone wants to reach out to you, how could they do that?
Well, they can go to my website where I have a contact form and I have my phone number on there because I'm always pretty easily available. But it's modernorlandomidwifery.com.
Great, great. And do you have a Facebook page?
I do. I'm really not the best on social media. It's not my big forte. So, but yes, I do have Modern Orlando Midwifery on Facebook as well.
Okay. Okay, perfect. So thank you, Laura. Thank you so much.
Thank you. I enjoyed this.
Me too. Me too, so much. And thank you also for being such an advocate for birth hypnosis, for guided relaxation and labor, and for allowing me to be a part of your birth journey. I just really appreciate it because I'm honored. And I feel so passionate that it really does make a difference for families and their ability and in the births.
Mm-hmm.
And it makes it easier for us selfishly. So.
It does. If I know a mom's Q word or I know to count her down, I'm helping her and it makes my work easier too. I'm not having to get a mom who is feeling like she's losing control and trying to help her regain that feeling of control and that feeling of relaxation and work on that. She's able to do that and I'm able to just help her very easily with it. So yes, it does selfishly make my job a little bit easier too. But
well, and it makes a difference when the provider is supportive.
Yeah.
It just forms this wonderful relationship and it really, really enhances it.
Right. Having a provider who already knows about hypnosis and what to do with it, when to step in, when not.
Yes, and how, and has been trained in it and understands it or has experienced it themselves, then it really just makes a huge, huge difference. So I hear your family, so I'm not going to keep you anymore, but thank you so much.
Thank you.
And thank you, families, for listening, and know that you have your voice and it really is okay to use it. My guests and I appreciate you listening. And if you're enjoying the show, please share it with a friend. And you can rate, review, and subscribe wherever you get your podcasts. Because when you do, that helps get the show and the information out to more people. And please remember, there is support out there for you. I am offering virtual sessions, and my Birthies Method Childbirth Education course is available online with video chat sessions, and it includes instruction on the creating of a relaxation habit, something I feel we all really need right now. And it also includes the audio recordings to practice with. Many prayers and much love to you all.
For more great conversations like these, or to find out more information and access Michelle's library of amazing guests, go to birthiesservices.com/podcast. For more information on the Birthies method, Michelle's classes, meditations, and other services, go to birthiesservices.com. For more great conversations like these, or to find out more information and access Michelle's library of amazing guests, go to birtheseservices.com/podcast. For more information on the Birthease method, Michelle's classes, meditations, and other services, go to birtheseservices.com.